Stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. This is Monday, April 4th. If you have any questions, concerns, come up to the microphone, give us your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind. Call the roll, please.
Dieter.
Here.
Hansbatter.
Here.
Kleeman.
Here.
Kufa.
Here.
Laporte.
Here.
Hall. Here. Foltz.
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, number 4, consent agenda, City Council minutes of March 21st, 2022, regular meeting, recommendation approve.
So moved. Or.
Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're fortunate tonight we have Jordan Smith here and Amy Hart, and this is our yearly audit presentation. Jordan?
Hello, my name is Jordan Smith. I'm a senior manager with Maynard Costerison, as you can see on the big screen. I've been the lead auditor for the city for the past couple of years. So I'm here to present the financial statements and give a few thoughts there. First thing I need to do, I really need to thank Annette, Warren, everyone, Amy. Sorry, Amy, I completely blanked out on your name. My wife's name is even Amy, so I shouldn't do that. So either way, I need to thank them and the staff here at the city. Without them, we can't get our job done. And they provide everything very clean and timely, and we really, really appreciate that. So I'm going to talk first about the independent auditor's report. This is the purpose of the audit, the independent auditor's report. To give an opinion on financial statements. It is not to detect fraud. It is not to give an opinion on internal controls. If we noted anything, we let you know about it. We have one finding, which I'll talk about a little bit at the end. There's nothing really on the board, but I'll talk about that. Very similar to last year, but no fraud was noted or anything as part of our audit. Management's responsibility, you can see underlined there. This paragraph is right out of the independent auditor's report. Management's responsibility is for the preparation and fair presentation of these financial statements in accordance with GAAP. Accounting principles generally accepted in the United States of America. The auditor's responsibility is to express opinions on these financial statements based on our audit. There is the joint venture that is the fire authority. We did not give, we have given opinion based on other auditors, so that's part of that paragraph too. But everything here is a clean, unmodified opinion. All in accordance with GAAP. It's the best possible opinion there is, clean, unmodified. So our opinion units, I listed them up there. We have the governmental activities, business type activities, discreetly presenting component units, the major funds, the 3 of them there, or those are the governmental major funds, and then aggregate remaining fund balance and fund information. So unmodified, it's the best possible opinion. I'm going to talk a little bit about the financial statements, focusing on the general fund and then also your enterprise funds. This is a little new format this year, as opposed to you may have seen in years past. Our firm is trying to develop new formats to present to city councils and other boards, and this is what we came up with. So focusing on the balance sheet, it's a little hard to see, but this snapshot as of September 30, 2021, so roughly 6 months ago. The general fund, total fund balance was a little over $5.4 million. And then that gets split into 5 possible categories. You have non-spendable, think of like inventory or prepaid expenses. You've got restricted, that's an outside source. Maybe the state gave you money that has to be spent on something. Committed, the board did a resolution to spend money on something, city council. Assigned, and then unassigned. So that committed, assigned, and unassigned, when you combine those, is considered unrestricted fund balance. The city council can choose however they want to do it. They may decide one thing, and then change their mind and decide on another. But those 3 combined, committed, assigned, and unassigned, is what makes up that unrestricted fund balance. So the assigned and unassigned, because there was no committed, we look at that in a number of different ways. One of the ways is that unrestricted fund balance divided by your expenditures and other financing uses. So unrestricted fund balance, little over 5.05 million. Expenditures of little under 3.2 million. Plus about 827,000 passed along to other funds, transferred out, comes out to about 126%. So 126% is that unrestricted fund balance of committed, assigned, and unassigned, which there was no committed, over your expenditures. That's very, very healthy. Another way to look at it, which I actually prefer a little bit more, is to take the unassigned, not the assigned. So what the city council has not decided to do anything, management, unassigned is a little more management what you budgeted. You're ignoring that. Just take the unassigned amount. That unassigned amount is 3.8 million, I believe it is. I'd have to double check here. And take that over your same expenditures. So that amount comes in this year at 92%. I like that because that's taking away everything that's already been committed one way or another, or assigned, committed, designated for something. It's 3.68 million is what that amount, that unassigned fund balance is. So you take that over that same 3.19 million plus the 827,000 and transfer, other financing uses, transfers to other funds, supplement them. That comes in at 92%. That's extremely healthy. Last year was 65%. This year's 92. The major reason for that is there's a $730,000 roughly increase in fund balance. So you added to your reserves, your baseline there, revenues over expenditures. Revenues this year were actually up over expected amounts. LCSA numbers, local community stabilization, our personal property tax reimbursement coming from the state increased about, I think it was $70,000. And then you also had some other state dollars that came in that was unexpected. State share revenue increase over 2020. And the state's numbers were low in 2020 because they didn't receive as much sales tax anyways. So those both increased, which helped add to, along with savings and expenditures, to that $730,000 adding to your baseline, your fund balance for the year. GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association, recommends you have 2 months of fund balance available in your general operating fund, your general fund, which is about 17%. So that's the unrestricted amount over your expenditures and transfers out. The city's at 126% there. So I know I'm kind of going two ways because I like ignoring that assigned and committed because that, like I said already, city council's already determined it one way. But unrestricted there is 126. GFOA recommends 17% or roughly 2 months set aside for that. So the city is doing very, very well from the general fund financially. The next slide here is just showing the same kind of things a little bit. You can see your revenues of 4.7 million, total expenditures of 3.1. Net of the other financing source and uses, some funds transfer money into the general fund to supplement costs the general fund originally paid for. And then most of the time, the general fund, which is why it's negative there, is transferring money out to supplement other funds, roads, pension, whatever it might be. But net change in fund balance here was an increase of $730,000, as I mentioned.
And that includes like the 250 from the COVID funds?
The COVID funds are not included here because they have not been expended. So the way that works is it's considered unearned revenue. You have that sitting there, and none of that actually counts as revenue until expense. Think like a matching principle. The revenue needs to match the expense. So the state provided guidance in a numbered letter saying not to record that as revenue until you expend it. If I could talk, it'd help. Here's just another representation of 5 years. You can see the green line there is fund balance. That's your reserves. That's all of fund balance. Your red is your expenditures for the year, and the blue is the revenue. So you can kind of see how it's fluctuated over the past 5 years. That fund balance keeps increasing, which is good to give the city reserves there. You can see an allocation of revenues overall. Taxes, 61% during the year, which is the same as 2020. There's 61% of total revenues in 2020. And intergovernmental, that's state and federal revenues, 23% for 2021, same percentage for 2020. So it's very consistent from a percentage of dollars standpoint. Expenditures, these changed a little bit, but pretty much very, very consistent. So your general government, your clerk, your treasurer's offices, stuff like that, that was 23% for 2021 and 19% in 2020. So those expenditures increased a little bit. Public works increased quite a bit, but a lot of that was offset by recreation and culture that increased very little. So overall, a very significant, or not a significant change overall. And then this is showing, it says unrestricted, this is unassigned, and I know I'm going two types of fund balance all over here, but you can see the current year 92%, your unassigned fund balance, even though it says unrestricted, I typed in the wrong term, I apologize, as a percentage of expenditures and other financing uses. So it's 92, it's 65 last year. The low point the past 5 years was 46% in 2019. So I'll call the city rebounded very well after dropping a little bit from 17, 18, 19, and then bouncing back up for 20 and 21. Now that's the general fund. One of the things we've started trying to talk about more is proprietary funds. So for the city, the proprietary funds would be water, sewer, harbor, the Gulf Fund, your rubbish or garbage fund. Those funds are proprietary funds. Supposed to be encapsulated, their user charges are supposed to cover your expenditures, including depreciation. This is just a snapshot, again, at 9/30/2021. Unrestricted net position for the sewer fund. So this does not include capital assets, does not include anything restricted. It was a negative 437,000. So we took that, and you can see in the bottom row there, the unrestricted net position over your operating expenses less depreciation. So basically your cost depreciation is not a cash outflow. So it's at about a negative 51%. Water fund, you can see the 1,077,000, which I apologize because I believe that should be a negative 1,077,000. So, and then you can see at the bottom there, over your operating expenses and less depreciation is about 113%. So it's, your reserves in those funds are not so good. The reason for these deficits here is largely because of the net pension liability and net OPEB liability. Net pension liability came on the books in 2015. You've always had that, but it just didn't come on until 7 years ago. And the net OPEB liability, your healthcare costs that you got to pay, that came on in 2018. So that was a few years later. And then your harbor fund is also a major fund. And the unrestricted net position is, that one is a positive 963,000, and it's really good shape at 165% of your expenses. You can kind of see this graph here, that unrestricted net position, the green, is up there a little bit. And then you can see it in the sewer fund, it became a negative. So the restricted of 390 required by loans to have that restricted net position. And then you can see the amounts down below, the totals. This is another way to look at it. The red, we calculate, and I'll explain it here in a minute, but we calculated an estimated amount of what we believe the minimum fund balance should be for the sewer fund. That's that red line up there. The current fund balance is the blue line. And I'll talk about how this works here. So we took the operating expenses, and then we took roughly 3 months, 3 out of 12, which comes into that 215,000 you see, plus the debt service. Your annual required payments, an estimated of just under 450,000 of debt service payments on that. And then we estimated what your capital expenditures per year would be, just 10% of your overall net book value of your capital assets, 10%. So about 936,000. All that comes into is just under, you can see there, 1.6 million. So from this, and this is just kind of a quick, I'll call it quick and dirty, whatever you want to call it, thing here. But it comes in a little under 1.6 million. That would be our recommended reserves for the sewer fund. And as you can see back here, it's the reserves I mentioned here were negative 437,000. So you can see that difference there between recommendation and what they are. Water fund, somewhat the same. The blue there, unrestricted net position and stuff. There aren't too much in reserves. The red would be our recommended for water. The blue there is where it's at. And then the same kind of thing. There is no debt service, so you don't have to worry about that for water fund. But you can see the operating expenses at 3 months, estimated capital, and that's a guess. I mean, what capital is needed for the water. About 210,000 a year. So it should be around 448, just under 450,000 is our minimum, recommended minimum. And it's currently below that. It's about $1 million under. This is the harbor fund, which is really healthy on the other side. So the harbor fund, you can see the green there. That's your unrestricted net position, which is over the blue. Your blue is your investment in capital assets. You can see there, the blue is your unrestricted where you are. The red would be the recommended. And that is how we came up with that. So the operating expenses, 3 months. You got roughly 50,000 in debt service payments every year. If you were to add capital, about 183 comes into, it should be about 381 would be our minimum recommended, but you're well above that as a city. Management letter, the one finding we had, oh, yes, go ahead, Warren.
I want to make something clear here. When you're talking about net position of our enterprise funds and you're throwing out negative numbers, it's not like I have negative $1 million in my sewer fund or in my water fund. We have positive cash balances in those funds. Our rates are generating enough money to cover cash costs. I just want to make that very clear.
Correct.
Because this is my last meeting and I don't want it to come across that we have, negative $1 million in our sewer fund. I wanted to point that out there real quick.
This is not cash. If I were to, I don't know how better to say it. So if I was talking to high schoolers about a lot of this or something, or college students, I'd be saying this would be in your savings account, or what should be in your savings account versus what is in your savings account. But a lot of this is offset by your car or your house or something you have sitting over here, your capital assets. So that investment in capital assets, in the end, you have a positive number. The ending number is positive. The unrestricted, the available resources, if you were to liquidate everything, is what becomes up as negative. And part of that liquidation is your pension liability, your OPEB liability. And that's what's causing negative. Amy and I were talking, and the sewer fund, water fund, was negative $1 million. But there's 1.6, 1.8 million, I could look it up, in net pension, net OPEB liability combined. So if you were to get rid of those OPEB liabilities or net pension OPEB liabilities, you'd be a positive number. And those liabilities are not due today. It's a long-term liability due over the lifespan of individuals. Is that answered?
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to put it out there. Again, like for example, we got 1.3 million in cash in the sewer fund, 700,000 in cash in the water fund. On the exact same page, you see the unrestricted net position, negative numbers, but I just wanted to be clear that we don't have negative cash in our enterprise funds.
Agreed. You do not have negative cash. As accountants, we're often looking, like I've talked about a lot, that net position, your fund balance, your equity, whatever you want to call it. If you're owning a business, it'd be retained earnings type stuff. That net position is what we look at over your expenditures. Kind of if you were to liquidate, here's what you'd have left.
You whispered that to me. Was that helpful?
Yes.
Well, in short, how do you correct that? How do you get the proper numbers in the proper columns in?
So those funds are designed for your user charges to cover your costs, including your depreciation. Depreciation, I'm using an example, you buy a truck, maybe you understand, but you buy a truck for $100,000, whatever it might be, you depreciate over 10 years. So the cash outlay is gone, but you don't show the expense for another 10 years or 10% every year for 10 years. So the idea would be behind that is when you need a new truck in 10 years, you've already set aside $100,000. Now there is inflation, so it might have gone up a little bit and things like that. And that's where the sewer fund, you're supposed to have user charges to cover that. Talking to Warren and Amy, they were commenting how the city's currently going under a rate study. And that would be the first thing you need to do. Are you charging adequate rates to residents and stuff like that? And there's a lot of, I don't remember myself when the last time rates were increased and stuff. There's some cities that do it every year or whatever, I shouldn't say cities, municipalities, townships, cities, whatever, who do it every year. They increase it even if it's 5 cents. And there's other ones that decide they just aren't going to increase it for 20 years and then they get into issues. I just cannot determine whether it should be increased or not. But what's the way to, usually I get asked, so how do we raise money? Increase rates or cut costs? I mean, unfortunately, those are, or you get really good return on investments like 20 and 21 pretty much were to cover some of that.
So if you're absorbing some of your depreciation rates, that's what's going to short you in those accounts?
That's usually what happens is people cover their operating costs, but they don't cover their depreciation. And then they get in trouble because they got a bond or get debt down the road and pay interest and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Back to the presentation, management letter, not a big deal. There's one finding. We had to, Amy told me ahead of time, she kind of ran out of time to do it. And believe it or not, it's one of my favorite parts. But so we had to recommend journal entries for pension and OPEB to the water and sewer funds. Amy had all the information. It was all there for us, just the calculation I had to do for the city because she ran out of time before the audit. Audit was issued timely. It was due March 31st. It was issued, I think, on the 29th or 30th. So there's no issue there. But issued. Submitted to the state on the 29th or 30th. That's what I should tell you. So there's no issue. It got to the state timely. But that was the only item. And Amy and I had a lot of conversations on that. And as far as personally, probably 89% of our clients have those type of comments, so I wasn't really too worried. That's it. Any additional questions? I know there's been a few, but
So going forward, Jordan, are we going to use the method for determining the fund balance percentage, the one that you came in last year with and or showed us both this year, but are we going to stay with the one?
I would recommend taking your unassigned fund balance over your expenditures and transfers out. It's what you're providing to other funds. That unassigned has not been designated for anything else by the city council. And so it's not, I hate using the term earmarked, but it's not been earmarked for anything else. So because of that, that is what I would recommend using. And that's what, as a resident for where I live, the city, I like seeing that the most.
That's the 92.
That's the 92%, yes.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. We actually call it Jordan's way in the office.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to number 6, ordinance and resolution. A, resolution 2205, modification of water and sewer tapping fees, Riverbank Theater. Real.
Yes, Your Honor. A few weeks ago, we received a request from the owners of Riverbank Theater regarding support for their development with their nonprofit status and their current building climate. I was instructed by the council to look into ways we could support the project from a financial standpoint as far as cost mitigation, and I concluded that the only way to do so would be to charge a 1-inch tap-in fee versus a 2-inch tap-in fee. Without getting too much into the weeds, the only reason that a 2-inch tap-in fee is required for this building is because of the fire suppression system. Normally, commercial businesses have a 1-inch meter or smaller. Again, not talking about industrial users, but commercial entities. So this would save $10,840 from the permit. The fee schedule itself for tap-in fees, for every time you go from 1 inch to 2 inch, 2 inch to 3, they ramp up significantly. But we would still be charging, as part of the building permit, all regular fees and for the building department's time, for plan review, for inspections. All of those costs would be met, and the city would still receive $3,160 in the form of the 1-inch tap-in fee. So again, that's what the research and told me to do, and I'm bringing it for you now for your consideration. Be happy to answer additional questions if necessary.
If I may, how does this impact other businesses that would fall into the same category? Is there something that would separate this business from another business from asking for the same thing? What's the trickle-down effects? I'm in support of supporting this project. I just want to understand the umbrella of what it's going to create down the road.
Sure. I think the biggest thing, and it's the second thing stated in the resolution, is 501c3 organization. I think that's why we would be able, that's why I think the council is supportive, instructed me to go ahead and pursue a recommendation. It's because of that status. Most of our tap-in customers are not 501c3s, so that's I think as a matter of precedence or policy setting, I think that's the most important piece of this, is the 501c3 status versus anything else.
Thank you.
Question, Bill. Just about the same time, Warren, we received another request for the same thing, correct? What's the status on that request to the gentleman?
Still, the matter you're speaking of still needs to be considered by council.
Is that going to be coming to council soon, or I know you're leaving in a week, but I guess when are we gonna see it?
Is this the residential tap?
Pardon me?
Was this the residential
Yeah,
tap?
the second gentleman that asked for the same thing, and I'm just curious where we stand on it or what's going on with it.
That's not a 501c3 though, right?
No.
It's just a gentleman that he made a request, same request as these people, and my question is, where's the city's, where we're going with it?
Has he made that request in writing?
Not in writing.
No. I would say that would be his next step.
All right, I mean, does nobody relayed that to the gentleman, or is he aware of that, Warren, or I guess? My question is, this one come pretty quick, and the other gentleman requested at the same time, and my question is, where are we standing on it?
I think ultimately council input is needed to move forward with that particular request.
The second one that's not in writing, that has not been formally requested?
Correct. Well, if said request should come, I think then the next thing to do would be consider as a council.
Right. All right. So that's the reason we're only looking at one instead of both of them.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Support. All right, motion made, supported, questions? All right, call the roll, please.
Hoopa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Foltz,
Yes.
Kinsfater,
Yes.
Lehman,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
Thank you. Number 7, Port Administration, Mr. Rothy.
Well, I think I'll save my farewell address for regular public comments. But I forgot to mention last council meeting that the city has received $970,000 for improvements at the water treatment plant. There was an article in the paper about it. I apologize for not announcing this at the last council meeting, but it's a pretty exciting development. It will take care of all the improvements at our shoreline pumping station, as well as get a new roof on the treatment plant itself, potentially. I'm working with Fishbeck now on the design engineering proposal. It's an extremely new program. Basically the return of earmarks at the federal level. I know we were successful in getting the funding, so was Marysville, so was another township in our county. So a lot of money in the federal budget appropriated just for our region, which is quite exciting. So I don't have any more information at this time, but I did want to make it known that as we talk about investments in water and sewer, we're not just pursuing the loan, we did pursue this essentially a grant, and we were successful in obtaining that. Otherwise, that's about it for my report this evening. Happy to answer any other questions, and
Questions from Mr.
I'll
Moe?
give my address later on.
One quick question, the LED streetlights, did that project get finished?
It is completed, yes, yes, and the bills are much lower than they used to be, so.
More on that 970 that we got, would that come off the 10 million that we're looking at for the water treatment plant, or was that going to be an additional?
Sure. So last year we were looking at about $10 million project, of which this was part. And then we looked at how our application scored, and we realized that if we wanted to increase our score, if we added a water main component to it,
Yeah.
that kind of brought it up to 11. So we're
Gotcha.
still at
So
a
this keeps
10,
us at 10.
and inflation will probably push
getting
it
a better
closer to
product for
11.
that 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, it's still going to be a $10 million loan request.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Attorney, you got anything over here?
Nothing this evening, Your Honor.
Anything for the attorney? City departments? Sturdy, you got something over there?
I do have a report, but before I give my report, I just wanted to congratulate Warren on your new position. Good luck in Grosse Pointe Park, and thank you for all your hard work these last couple years. It's been appreciated.
Thank you very much, Annette.
So you're welcome. So an update on the superintendent search. The posting is live on MML. The first review of applications is next week. So once those are received, I will submit those to council for review, and we'll go from there. The first action after that will be setting up a special meeting to conduct public interviews. Affidavits of identity and nominating petitions for residents interested in running for mayor or council are due by 4 p.m. Tuesday, April 19th. The May 3rd election, all of that is running very smoothly. We have processed 539 ballots already from absent voter ballot applications. Those applications are available. You can get that online, or you can come into City Hall and get that as well. And lastly, notices were sent to all registered voters of Ward 2, notifying them of the polling place location change. that was approved per Election Commission recommendation. So all those notices did go out to all registered voters, and that did include verified voters, challenge voters, people that we think may have moved but hasn't updated their voter registration. So we've been receiving quite a few returned mail, but they had to be sent out to every registered voter per law. So that has been taken care of as well. And the next thing we will have to do regarding elections and voting and notices is we'll have to send out notices to all registered voters within the city regarding redistricting. There has been a change for City of St. Clair residents. I'll have more information on that at the next council meeting or maybe in May. Those aren't going out till after May, so there's no confusion. It's just alerting voters of new district numbers. We are in a new district number now because of the new mapping. But that will be coming later.
This is our federal district you're referring to?
Oh, yes, yes. I'm sorry. I feel like everyone is in a clerk's world for elections sometimes. There is redistricting throughout the state of Michigan, and those maps have been approved, and there have been some changes in St. Clair County, and it does directly affect City of St. Clair. We're now District 63, and there's some other changes too, but I'll have more details on that very soon. That's all I have this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, D, any authorities or boards, commissions, committees? We have no unfinished business. We'll go to number 9A. Approve proposal for 2022 local street resurfacing. Mr. Walden.
Yes, Your Honor. Before you this evening is a bid award and potential additional work for our 2022 local street resurfacing program. The original streets for work which were bid out were East and West Meldrum Circle, Benedict, North 4th, North 2nd, Devon, Stratford, and Ash. We, in this crazy world of inflation and cost, we weren't exactly sure what our bids were going to come back at, but we were very pleased to have a bid that was under our budget. Low bidder was TG Priest, $410.49 for these resurfacing projects. In our local street fund as a whole, we had $113,000 budgeted for projects. About 300 of this is reserved for the South 10th Street reconstruction, which is a reminder, reconstructing a road is significantly more than resurfacing a road. So roughly we had $500,000 for local street work, including resurfacing projects. So besides awarding the bid to TG Priest tonight, administration is seeking direction on adding the following additional streets, either as a set bidding out as a separate project or awarding it as additional work to the low bidder, TG Priest. The streets are Highland Drive, Turnberry, Glen Eagles, and St. Andrews. The cost with TG Priest would increase by $147,181.35. The total cost of local street resurfacing would be $387,000. So essentially, two questions to ask tonight. Are these additional streets worth pursuing? And if so, should we bid it out as a separate project or award it to TG Priest? In your packet, I included the breakdown of where we've spent our money per ward over the last 3 fiscal years. Ward 1, $267,000. Over the last 3 fiscal years. Ward 2, $1.1 million over the last 3 years. And Ward 3, $1.3 million. Ward 1 has seen far less road improvements in the past 3 years. So I know this resurfacing work is focused in that area. But again, if you look at where we've been spending the dollars out, it's definitely been focused heavily in Wards 2 and 3. And then for the $93,000 that's left over, in that roughly $800,000, that will cover curb repairs, which were already underway in the Meldrum Circle area for these streets. It could cover sealing programs, applications of a chip seal or micro surfacing, which we're looking into and could have some information on soon with that. That's essentially it. Our recommendations to add those to the docket, and also don't want to not talk about the other road projects in town. Kearney Drive is getting entirely resurfaced, and I wrote on my memo that's all 3 wards. I was corrected. That is not in Ward 1 at all. It's only Wards 2 and 3 is our Kearney Drive. We're doing Fredmore Highway. That's Ward 3, as well as the section of South 10th. So those are all So again, South 10th is part of the 800,000, but Kearney Drive and Fredmore, those are funded by both grants, federal aid, as well as our own major street fund, which is a separate fund from the local streets. And one last fact that if we move forward with the additional streets, just the resurfacing projects, which is everything listed in Ward 1 and Ash and Kearney Drive, that's over 3 miles of road. I didn't measure Fredmore Highway or South 10th. We only have 30 miles of road in this town. This is the way we can do 10% in 1 year. That's a fantastic year in my opinion. So it's our recommendation to proceed. Be happy to answer any other additional questions at this time.
I have a few questions. I drove the greater area, Ward 1 and 2 today, looking at all the roads and taking into account some of this information. What's life expectancy of our roads? About, 20 years? They tell us to work off of?
Yeah.
So we've got a 3-year physical, I guess, breakdown of Ward 1, 2, and 3. But I guess what would be helpful for that is if we had a better understanding of the age of these roads and a breakdown at 5, 10, and 15. Because this just gives us a 3-year snapshot of where we focused money in 3 years, not the life expectancy of a road that might be 30 years old and still does not have any allocation for it getting fixed, regardless what ward it's in. Does that make sense?
I understand the comments. I wouldn't be able to provide that information this evening. Although, again, resurfacings, that's easily 15 years to a road, and reconstruction could be anywhere from 20 to 25 is typical. So that's kind of where you see some of the more expensive treatments or the, again, resurfacing. Not every road in town is eligible for resurfacing. And again, I just thought an economies of scale approach. We had additional funds. It made sense to, just completely finish this one area so we can direct our attention to the more costly reconstruction projects in the future.
Do we have that future plan in place?
Ultimately, the roads to fix each year are at the discretion of the city council. We did put together the 6-year road plan, which had a mixture of reconstructions and resurfacings across the entire city, all 3 wards. I used that first year as a frame for this year, so South 10th, Fredmore, and all these other resurfacings. That was what was in that plan. Again, it wasn't formally adopted by council, but it's the projects that I presented on in the beginning of the fiscal year, and that could be used as a guide going forward. But ultimately, council does have complete control over which roads get what available funding each year.
So you need 2 motions, or can all be 1 motion to award it all to Prees, or the initial and then bid out the rest? Something like that?
It depends on what the council chooses to do. We could, I think at a minimum, award the project as bid to TG Priest as the lowest bidder, and then if you wanted to make a separate motion or include in the motion to give the additional work to Priest, you could do that, or if you wanted to instruct me to bid out the project of the other, the 4 proposed streets as separately, that would be, a second motion. So I think any of those are acceptable.
Sure, all right.
So it's to our advantage to take advantage of the low bidder, which is Prees, and award the whole project.
That makes sense to me.
Well,
If we can get, would you say almost 3 miles for under $400,000?
Well, that's all the roads this year, not just, this is
Oh,
about
okay.
2. This is about 2 for 400,000.
2 for under 400,000.
Yes.
Mark, I got a question. The 4 add-ons, are them complete, or are they just gonna do bad spots?
Those are complete resurfacings. I think that's about roughly a mile, just those 4 streets of the 2.2 I mentioned that before you this evening.
It seems like a great opportunity for us to get a lot of roads done here. Especially doing Kearney Drive, Fredmore Highway, South 10th.
I'll make a motion to approve the $387,591.84 to Priest to do the initial bid and the add-on bid.
Support.
All right, motion made, support, questions. All right, call the roll, please.
Laporte,
Yes.
Paul,
yes.
Volz,
Yes.
Kinsfater.
Yes.
Kleeman,
Yes.
Kuva,
Yes.
Cedar?
Yes.
Carried, Your Honor.
Good, thank you. Okay, B, so now Warren's gonna leave.
He is?
Yep. And we have to have, Annette, we need to make some action tonight on a couple different things. Approve Annette Sturdy, our city clerk, as the interim city superintendent is B, and then C will be the compensation proposal. We'll do each of those separately, obviously, so. Start with B.
Motion to approve.
Support. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's go to C, approve interim city superintendent compensation.
Motion to approve.
Support. Motion made, supported. Questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, I believe.
Did you even want it?
We're gonna find out.
Find out. Also, since Warren's leaving, we need to have a MDOT street administrator, so we're gonna designate, assuming Annette.
Yes.
What's the resolution?
We'll need a motion to designate Ms. Sturdy as our street administrator.
So moved.
Any questions?
So Phil, she's in charge of the bike path now.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor, may I have a roll call for that? It's a resolution, please.
Oh, it's a
Yes,
resolution.
yes, please, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
That's my fault.
Paul?
County,
Folds?
Yes.
Kinsfater?
Yes.
Seaman?
Yes.
Hoopa?
Yes.
Laporte?
Yes.
Cedar?
Yes.
Resolution adopted. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, number 10 is claims and accounts for March 24th and 31st of 2022.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Or, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Number 11 is public comment. If you have any non-agenda items, come up and tell us what's on your mind. I would ask you to stay at 3 minutes or less, please. I got one guy run wild last time, so let's keep it 3 minutes, son. 3 minutes to get up. You're down to 2 then.
Mayor Cedar and Council, Phil Lundman, corner 9th and Clinton. Believe it or not, I'm not here to talk about the bike path. I'm here to talk about Mr. Rothy. Warren, I want to let you know I really appreciate your support when we had the meetings with the bike path, and your professionalism with dealing with the issue is very noteworthy. And I took the liberty to take one of my photos that I've done, and I personalized it for you. If you'd pass it to him, please.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
We've been plotting against you.
Very kind, Phil. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Phil.
You bet. Nice.
Anybody else? All right, then,
I can talk now.
well, under this, you going? Okay,
Can.
yeah, it's you.
All right.
I'll give you, since Phil saved you a couple minutes,
All
you
right.
get 4.
All right, I'll do what I can. I thought it wouldn't be me if I didn't have some prepared remarks for the occasion to hopefully commemorate. The meeting's not quite over yet. My final council meeting as your superintendent. I thought about listing accomplishments. I thought about pointing to the miles of repaved roads, the millions in investments, the continued financial stewardship, surviving a pandemic. And while all of that is excellent and worth recognition, what I remember most is relationships I was able to make while I was here. I've always been fond of the phrase, city upon a hill. The phrase comes from the Gospel of Matthew, and over time has been used by various political leaders to describe America's role, the role of being the shining example of good governments in the world. During my time in St. Clair, this phrase has meant even more to me, not just because we happen to have a large hill in our city, but because of what St. Clair stands for. I truly believe that St. Clair is the city upon the hill in St. Clair County. In my time here, I have been blessed to work with a passionate city council, a high-performing staff, and countless community members. Many projects have come and gone, some I planned for, and some I was fortunate enough to be in the right place in the right time. I have seen the city transform in the last 2.5 years, and although I will not play an active role in shaping its future anymore, I have nothing but confidence that St. Clair's position on the hill will only grow more important in the years to come. I wouldn't have been able to have accomplished half of what I have without a substantial and sustaining team. I would like to thank my City Hall family, specifically Annette, Jessica, Amy, Treese, Paul, Shirley, Morgan, Tom, Jennifer, and Grandpa D. However, it's not just those in City Hall who play such an important role. I give equal thanks to the following talented individuals: Chief Raker, Corporal Ennis, Sergeant Slippa and Patchett, Bob Beath, Jeff Chambers, Tom Fountain, Dave Shorkey, Paul Wade, Jim Beer, Jim Downey, and on rare occasion, even Jeff Bohm. There are many others on this team. All are dedicated to St. Clair, and I can't wait to see what everyone accomplishes next. Once again, I thank the City Council, both past and present, for supporting the team here at St. Clair, including me. You welcomed me and made me part of the community. Thank you all for continuing to represent St. Clair with integrity. I take comfort in knowing that through every decision, the council always desired to put the greater good of the community first. Finally, perhaps no other person has impacted me during my time here more than Mayor Cedar. I have enjoyed our near daily conversations about public service, good government, sports, and life itself. Also, how to make a good fight for a hard bargain. I cherish our friendship, and I will miss serving alongside of you. Thank you for the trust and confidence you showed me, as well as everything you taught me. Yours in service.
Wow. Well.
Thank you.
All right, well, any other public comment? We'll go to number 12. I will have a couple words to say in a minute, but does council have anybody want to say anything?
I want to steal your thunder.
I don't have any thunder. I have a feeling he alluded to he thinks I'm cheap. I think that's what he is. I have to say that, was it going on 3 years ago, right? We hired you?
About 2.5, yeah.
So when we first got here, I thought, another son to raise. But I got to tell you, he's absolutely right. I go into City Hall every morning, probably 8:45, I don't know. I think I'm there till about 10 or 10:15. Sometimes I go back in the afternoon, but it really was a pleasure. Not at first, because he had some rough edges I had to smooth out. He wanted to spend, and I wanted to keep it in the fund, you know.
I did grow your fund balance by like 50%.
He's so proud of that. I'm glad he's proud of that.
That's right.
Yeah, so it really was a pleasure. And he's a very sharp guy, and I wish him the best of luck. But the best of luck, I really wish Grosse Pointe Park the best of luck, because I don't know what they're going to do with you down there. But those are mansions, son. This guy is smart, and he's a hard worker. We're going to miss him. We really lucked out when we brought him on board. I enjoy talking to him every day, and we work through a lot of things that you wouldn't think that a city of 5,800 people, that every single day there literally is something happening, something going on that has to be fixed or smoothed out. And Warren was very good at that, and I appreciate everything you did, Warren. And I do really wish you and Billy the best of luck down there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anybody else want to? All right. Now I'm going to throw this out there, and I just want people to think about this and get back to me, or just talk in the next meeting. But do you, like, a couple 2 points? Do you think we need to, and what would we do with this? Maybe form a subcommittee to look at 501c3 nonprofits who come to the city and say, look, we're a nonprofit, registered with the IRS. Can you help us out a little bit? We took this one on a case-by-case basis. Here's our first one, really. Do we really need some sort of policy to cover this kind of thing, or we just take it as a case-by-case? Don't tell me now. Think about it. Let it stew in your brain. Anybody else? I guess that's all I got. Good luck, Warren.
Good luck.
Best wishes.
Good luck.
Remember, you're done Friday. Not Friday, Thursday, or Wednesday.
I'll be here.
Call me cheap.
Watching him leave the parking lot on Friday afternoon.
With that comment, Your Honor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Have a good night, everybody. Thanks for coming. Thanks for your kind words.
No, that's actually why I want